This is going to really mess me up. I did work yesterday, so it kind of feels like a Tuesday, but I know with the holiday weekend, a lot of you are kind of thinking the same thing. It is Tuesday. We have some stuff to talk about in the weather. I think our local weather is going to be fairly quiet. I did want to talk tropics here first for this afternoon, as we have a wave that we're watching way out in the Atlantic. It's actually a 70% chance of developing, so it's a pretty good one. Let's start, tropically speaking, with the current temperatures, or the forecast temperatures, I should say, across the country. This is this afternoon. Notice what happens in the central and eastern United States. See the Great Lakes there? See that colder air pushing in? All of this here. This is as we get towards Thursday and Friday. That has been ongoing for them for some time. This is out to Saturday. You can see there's a front, right? Clearly to see where the front is. 86 in D.C., 66 in Cleveland. So obviously the front is in here, 91 in Atlanta, 76 in St. Louis. So a series of cold fronts is coming through, and they generally make it just off the coast here, okay? And then they kind of stall. We really don't get much cooler air here in Florida, at least in the panhandle, in the peninsula of Florida, okay? That's the pattern. That pattern looks like it will continue as we go through, well, this is saying the 12th, but I think it's really back 7th through about maybe the 10th. 11th, 12th time frame, okay? And this is showing cooler than average, and that's because that's where the high is. That's bringing the cooler air, and that would insinuate that you have a cold front out here. I'm telling you all of this because that cold front actually acts as a block. Even if the front is down here over top of us and falling apart, the flow kind of picks things up and brings them off towards the north and the east. There's the front now. Remember the rain that we saw on Sunday in the Tampa Bay area? That was from this front sliding southward through the area, okay? It was actually pushing to the south. This part of it here brought the clouds and the showers. And then we had a little low developing right here, okay? That low was responsible for us having some slightly drier air out there. But you see this whole front here? No storm is coming at this. Well, if it is, it's going to come at and turn. Okay, so reason why I showed you those temperatures is I want to see the pattern moving out in the future and see what we're looking at. And right now it looks like for at least the next couple of weeks, week and a half at least, we're going to kind of have some kind of front just off the East Coast or along the East Coast, which is great news because here we are. 70% chance of development for this particular wave as it moves off towards the west-northwest. Next couple of days is 30%, but mainly beyond that, days 3, 4, 5, and 6 is 70% chance. So we're still talking the end of this week. All right, it's Tuesday now. That means Wednesday, Thursday, so Friday, maybe late Thursday into Friday, it has a 70% chance to start going at that point. Here's where it is now. You can actually see it is looking a little bit better here. There's a ton of dust around this thing, so it's going to have a tough time getting going here, but there is some dust in it. And I think once it shakes that off, it will have a better chance of developing. And that's what the European model says as well. Let's go out to, well, let's go Friday night. This Friday night, okay? Here is Puerto Rico, right in here. All right, there's the Northeast Islands. You can see how far east of this thing is, but the Europeans got it organized, and at least a tropical depression at that point, okay? Over this upcoming weekend, here's what the European does. It started to go to the northwest, and it comes to the west. Here is the island chain. Let me make sure I'm getting in there with that. There's Puerto Rico. St. Martin, Barbados is right about here, so it's not too far off of Barbados. Now watch what it does. See the high sitting up here? This is the high that it's going around, okay? It's literally like a bobber floating around in the ocean outside of this high pressure, wherever that thing steers it. Now, this high tends to break down and move a little bit more towards the east. All right, you see that? Now it's here. This high was sitting here. So late this weekend into next week, this is next Friday, all right, a week and a half out, it moves this low off to the east. That opens the door for this thing to recurve. It gets pretty close again. This is very similar to what we just saw Aaron do. Remember Hurricane Aaron coming through there as we get into next Friday. That's the 12th. Here's the GFS model. Similar track, okay? It does, and it too tries to flare this thing up. Pretty good looking hurricane at that particular point. All right, but it's a recurve. There's the high. The high slides to the east. It opens the door. And then look at all this green. You see all that green right there? That's a frontal boundary. All right, that's why I wanted to show you those temperatures and how the pattern is. So as far as that's concerned, we'll see, okay? I feel better about it, right, watching it, but that's not set in stone, right? If it doesn't get picked up, it may come underneath, but right now it's kind of looking like that. This is a forecast that looks out 2 to 3 weeks, okay? So this is September 10th through the 16th. And it says we're watching this area here, right, where we're watching more waves come off of Africa and do almost exactly what we're watching for this week, okay? But we're also watching this area here. Now, remember those fronts that get down in here, they also get stuck out here over the Gulf. So we watch for that. And then we watch for stuff to pop up here in the Bahamas, the Turks and Caicos. And this can drift off towards the west. It can also go to the north and northeast, obviously, but some of it can go to the west. So personally, I think what's going to happen is we'll probably end up watching the Western Caribbean as well. And something's going to track off to the north and the west in the Western Gulf. We'll probably get something trying to do another northwest turn and then a curve to the north and the east. Now, beyond that, now we're talking the 17th through the 23rd of September. You can see now the chances are really going up of developing these African waves, what we call the main development region. They come off of Africa here. Those are kind of the seedlings to the beginning of it, and then they start to pop up over here. What's happening? We look at a bunch of different things, but one of them is called the MJO, the Madden-Julian Oscillation. And that's this area that goes all the way around the globe of lift or sinking air. And it's slow. It's like 2 weeks go all the way around. And when you get an area of sinking air over top of you in the tropics, you tend not to get a lot of development. Okay, but when you get an area of rising air over the tropics in your area, then you start to, all of a sudden, you'll just pop up 2, 3, 4 of them, right? And you've probably seen that when we have 2, 3 storms on the map at one time. That's usually because we're in that phase of the MJO that gives us the lift. That phase is coming back here. The lift phase will be here by the middle of the month and probably through the end of the month almost. So that's why when you look at this, it says September 23rd. And pretty decent chance, greater than 40% chance that something tries to develop in here. That's what it's seeing. That doesn't mean we're going to get hit. I mean, certainly the folks in the islands want to keep a close eye on this. Everybody has to, okay? But then you can see in the Western Gulf as well, all right? So it's that time of the year, okay? We've got hurricane season from June 1st through November 30th, but really it's August 1st through the end of October. That is the heart of this. And September 10th is the statistical peak. So that's coming up here in just about a week, a little over a week. And so we're there, which is good news, right? But look at this, look what we all have to go through, right? I usually say almost to the end of October. That's kind of my rule. If we can get past Halloween, usually we have enough cold fronts, ironically, to keep us cool and keep us protected. Those cold fronts, again, haven't gotten all the way down here, but that pattern is what we normally see in late September and October. And that's the one that can help us and can block them, right? The whole thing I just went through, that's normally happened later in the season. So if we can kind of keep this pattern going up, which we will for a little while, but you know it's going to flip. And the high pressure is going to be in the north central Atlantic, and it's going to send everything underneath to the west. So we'll keep a close eye on it. That's where we stand with it right now. All right, let's talk local weather. We have a really nice afternoon out there. It is gorgeous, with a nice little breeze left over, some drier air in place, meaning lower humidity. Dew points are down into the low 70s for the most part. We do have a couple of showers, mainly over on the East Coast, far eastern Polk County here. You can see there's not a lot going on. But Lake Okeechobee down here, you can see some showers in that I-95 corridor south of Palm Bay. But just for us, it's just some mid and high level clouds coming in from the west. The radar's trying to pick up a little bit of rain, trying to fall out of these way out over the Gulf, but I don't think we're going to get any rain from those tonight. I can't rule out a stray shower over the next several hours through about 9 o'clock tonight, kind of rotating around. See the low here? Let me move this out of the way. You see that low? And you can see the rotation around it right there, right? That's what's helping to bring in some of that slightly drier air for us. Okay? Now, we're having what's called an overrunning situation because the winds at the surface are out of the north and the east. Meanwhile, the winds aloft are out of the west. And so you get this kind of moisture trapped in the middle there. And the forecast models are trying to suggest that perhaps one or two of these holds together for tomorrow morning. I'd say around 9:30, 10:30 time frame along the coast. We'll see. We could get that. That's a lot closer than that. So there could be this evening, but I think a lot of that one falls apart. But that trend with this front sitting out here, right, helping to make these showers and storms, it'll fade away, but it's not going to fade away right away. And so we're going to have more of these popping up, I think, through the night and tomorrow. All right. So winds, nice little breeze out there. It's nothing like yesterday. We had gusts in the 20s. Mid-20s yesterday, okay? But we are looking at winds generally out of the north and the northwest along the immediate coast. So it's been a little bumpy along the immediate coast. Watch out for rip currents there, always an issue when you have some small waves there. But overall, the winds have come down compared to what we saw yesterday. You can see most areas 5 to 10 right now. And I don't expect them really to pick back up. Outside, looking good, but those high clouds are coming in, right? It's going to affect a little bit that sunset for this evening. You can see 92 degrees right now, feels like 99 when you factor in 71-degree dew point, but that's a lot better than what it could be. When we've had those heat advisories, the dew point number has been closer to 80 degrees. Okay, so this is a lot drier. Generally, we're around 75 to 77. It's where we've been the last several weeks. So for it to be around 71 degrees, that really dries things out, at least enough. Look at that humidity, 50%. That's a little bit lower. That's good. We'll take that. Air temps, 80s along the coast. Again, remember, we've got that northwest wind right there along the beaches. Not a lot, but enough to keep it a little bit cooler there. 92 in Tampa and Riverview. Same thing in Frostproof. 91 up in Homosassa, and Sarasota's at 89 degrees. So the current dew points now, the low is actually moving further away. Here's our low. Okay, so the winds are actually a little bit more out of the north. That's good because there's the dry air, right? If this low was sitting a little bit over here, we would have more of that dry air pulled down here. It's just a little too far out here to the east for that good north wind that's sitting here to grab some of that drier air. Because remember, it's coming in off the water. Look at that mess. That is a mess. All right, but it's coming in off the water here, so it grabs moisture in the air and the humidity just doesn't drop as much. If you can get the wind coming across the land where the real dry air is and coming down the peninsula, that's when you'll get it. We have light northerly winds. See, from Gainesville to Tampa, it's just now it's lighter, and it's not enough to really pull down a whole lot. It is enough to keep us comfortable. All right, I do think that is the case tonight and tomorrow, by the way. So here's the forecast model for rain chances. Most areas stay dry, but you see that right there? That's around 7 o'clock tonight. There is a small chance for some showers down here towards Sarasota County as well. Hardy, DeSoto, Highlands, real small chance for deep inland locations today. Tomorrow morning we will start dry, but remember there's a couple clouds. You see this down here? That's that moisture I was showing you that's forming off of that front out in the Gulf. And so some clouds, especially Tampa southward, or let's say Manatee southward, and a really small rain chance first thing in the morning. By the time we get towards around 10 a.m., there's that moisture I was talking about, 9:30 to 10:30. The model says it stays offshore at this point, but really close through around lunchtime. This is around 2 o'clock, and then here we go. Overlapping, okay? Northeast wind along the East Coast picks up these showers and storms, blows them our way. High clouds, mid-level clouds from the west come in the opposite direction, and you get a few showers. It's not a lot. All right, the atmosphere is not made right now to make a bunch of big-time thunderstorms, okay, because we have the high clouds. We're not going to get a lot of daytime heating. There's a lot going on there. Now, that was your Wednesday. Here's Thursday morning. Starts dry. Thursday around lunchtime, 2 to 3 o'clock, we pop up showers and storms. Now, we will see more sunshine around on Thursday. We will get warmer, and as a result, we will see a few more of these afternoon showers and storms. Notice the wind still out of the east-northeast. That's kind of a, I don't say it's a muggy wind, but it's not as, the dew points will be coming up simply because of that wind. All right, so it's going to be a little bit muggier and just a few showers and storms. Nothing to cancel any plans about. It's still, well, it is technically summertime here, but what we call this meteorological fall because we can compare the months of September, October, November because they all have the same days every year. Right, September 1st through September 30th, is there 31? Right, same thing every year. October, November, always the same. The vernal equinox, the equinoxes shift a little bit. It's not by much, it's usually hours, can be almost a day. But when you're comparing summer season to next summer season, if you use that vernal equinox, it shifts a little bit, so you're not comparing apples to apples. But if you use September 1st through the end, all the way through the end of November, November 30th, then you're comparing apples to apples. So that's why we call it meteorological fall. Fall's coming up. It's going to be a while before we get to that. Tomorrow's forecast, upper 80s to near 90 degrees. You see quite a few clouds around, especially by the afternoon, but really a small chance for a shower. We're not talking about a lot of rain. Boating forecast, we do have some light winds, generally northeast to northwest winds, but only around 5 to 10 knots. So seas average about 1 to 2 feet. I would have normally just put a foot out there, but because we've had this wind this afternoon and a little bit of a breeze yesterday, there's a little bit of residual swell out there. Not much, but just enough to say 1 to 2 foot seas, okay? 87 in the water, UV index will be a 10. So there's our rainfall coverage according to at least the European model. So I went 30% tomorrow, and that's a high number. I definitely could have gone lower. You can see that here. I just think there'll be 1 or 2 showers around. Maybe I'll knock it down. 30 to 40% though as we get into Thursday. Remember, Thursday is going to be warmer. We're going to have more sunshine to get those storms going a little bit in the afternoon, and a little bit more of an east to northeast wind with more moisture in the atmosphere. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the frontal boundary is kind of getting stuck south of us. And that's why this is kind of an iffy forecast, because if you want to know exactly where that front's going to be, I think it does end up south of us. And so Tampa is, I mean, look at this Friday. We're right on the northern edge of this. Saturday. Now Sunday, definitely even drier. Okay, so we went 30% Friday, 30% Saturday, only 20% on Sunday. Well, I kind of hope this forecast holds. That would be nice if we could do that. But you can see there that we are going to be looking at some drier air trying to work its way in the further north you go. All right, here's those temperatures again that we were talking about, and those are all going to be pushing off to the south and the east. You can see the fronts just kind of coming down across the Great Lakes. So, and I think what will happen, I mean, I've heard talk that they are saying they're going to close down some of the summer pools up in the north and northeast early because of this, because it is cool up there now. But I bet you this flips. And by the end of the month, we'll probably end up with some very warm temperatures, and they're probably wishing that they had one more weekend up there with the pools, because it's probably going to get hot. I did want to show you the northern lights. We have a chance to see if this will pop up here. So we had a geomagnetic storm. Oh, it is perfect. It hasn't been working lately. We had a solar storm come off of the sun the other day. It arrived here on Earth around 5 o'clock p.m. yesterday, our time. Okay, and so it's this solar radiation, this plasma coming out at us. And it's really hard to forecast. So it depends on where the Earth's tilted and where the time and where it's coming out and entering our atmosphere. But when it does, it ionizes in our magnetic field, especially in the northern part of our Earth. And that's what you're seeing here, colored in red and green. And it literally knocks the particles apart, and then when they come back together, they create light. Okay, and that is what the northern lights are. They were incredible last night, especially while I have a buddy him and his family happened to be in Iceland. Just happened to be in Iceland, and that's one of the best places to be to see this. And they have some incredible pictures. Go to my Facebook page, Bobby Deskin's Weather. I posted them in a little short video there. But this is the forecast for tonight. And it's similar to last night. So even like northern Illinois, northern New York, if you look off to the north, you have friends or family there, they're going to be able to see some of these if you have clear skies. Again tonight, I think it's less tonight than what it was yesterday, but it's certainly still ongoing, at least this forecast from NOAA is calling for that. So I have not heard of any major communication issues. This was G3, that was the last forecast that I heard, that was yesterday. And with that type of geomagnetic storm, you end up with some satellites have to be moved potential, because it can literally knock them a little bit out of their orbit. And it's just a little bit messes them up, so they have to be kind of moved back into orbit. I haven't heard of anything like that. They turn some a certain direction. The space station has to take certain precautions as well, because there's a lot of energy moving through the atmosphere. But I haven't heard of any major issues, as I mentioned, and like high frequency radios and things like that, they could experience a little bit of an issue. But again, if you didn't get it yesterday, probably not going to have any issues with it for today. All right, let's talk wind forecast. We were talking about how that wind was coming down. You can see it's out of the north, but not a lot. This is tonight through about 8:30, and you can see it's 5 to 10 knot winds. A little bit more at the coast. I do think it turns a little bit offshore for everybody that is there along the outer banks, along the outer beaches of Pinellas County. Now, the humidity trend, remember I talked about those easterly winds coming in off of the Atlantic by Thursday and Friday. You can see how Thursday's dew point goes from 72 to 74 and kind of stays up there Friday through Saturday. So take advantage of this drier air. I mean, it's subtle, right? But it is something that you will notice over the last couple of, well, you probably noticed the last couple of days, especially today. Here's the forecast as we go through tonight, tomorrow night, into Thursday morning. And you see the dew points, actually, there's where the drier air is still around. But watch as we go through Wednesday night into Thursday, that's Thursday, 8 p.m., we don't really see much of a break. And in fact, if anything, we get a ton of moisture coming in from the east, and that's going to bring back a lot of that humidity as we make our way through the weekend. Look at that right there. This would be amazing if this could happen. Watch what happens Friday night. Saturday afternoon. Can we? I mean, we are taking a lot of the rain out of the forecast on Sunday. There'll be some dry air, but up above us. What I'm showing you here are surface dew points. This is kind of like the humidity that you would feel when you're going outside, right? The higher that number, the more humidity you're going to feel. Today it's in the lower 70s, so it would be nice if we could get back there, but it suggests 65, 62. That would only happen if we had a shower or two pushing it down. But that's it. Average temperatures, let's go down the 7-day forecast. The average temperature this time of the year is still 91 degrees. All right. I think we drop on the 16th of this month from an average high of 91 to 90. So I was thinking today, I'm like, well, September 2nd, if you have lived in Florida for any time, if you're from Florida, you know September starting. We've got just about 2 more months of this heat and humidity, sometimes maybe a little less. That would be nice, right? So we're excited. Now, if you just moved here, you're thinking 2 more months of the heat and humidity? Yeah, we try and get cold fronts in here late October. You know, it's always kind of like Halloween, or the kids are going to be sweating out in those costumes, right? Can we get a cold front in here? And I can tell you in the last 5 to 6 years at least, we've had more temperatures near 90 than we have in the 80s, okay, lower 80s. So generally I would err on the side of it going to be hot and humid for Halloween, but then right after that is when we tend to get a good front. Maybe even a tropical system will go to our east and pull down some cooler air, and then it kind of shuts everything down for the season. So hopefully that would be the case. So none of that in the next extended forecast. If you do notice, the overnight lows are in the 70s. And notice tomorrow morning about 76 degrees, 77 on Thursday. They start to come up a little bit over the weekend, not a lot, but that's just a sign of those higher dew points that are coming in. All right, I wanted to show some water temperature. Let me see if I have this here. Yeah, not going to see it on that one. One last look at the tropics here before we go. Oh yeah, I was going to show you the dust. Let's do that. So remember where we have our area here in the red, right? That's the watch area. So look at the dust coming off of Africa, right into that area. It's pouring right into it. And that's going to make this system kind of struggle a little bit. This is through Friday. Remember, right around Friday time frame, it starts to really get going, okay? And look what happens. Yeah. It's trying to get rid of it, but there's still a lot wrapped up in it, so we'll see what happens. And then by the time we get to next week, it can kind of shed a lot of that and dry things out a little bit, or get rid of that drier air and try and work it. This is interesting because it's the storm, the model here. Let me get it to here. The model has the storm right here. All right, so it's very close. So we're going to have to watch it because it keeps shifting to the west. Going to get closer to the Bahamas and eventually closer to Florida. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you for joining us. 10 Tampa Bay at 5.